Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to analyze the recent developments on the front line that I reported on last night. First, we'll start at the Vuhledar direction. We have two significant villages here. We have Vuhledar and we have Velika Novosilka. The thing is, these two villages are very heavily defended. Not just are they especially in Velika and Novosilka, it's very large, but it also has a connection with three other villages, which actually means that it is a position where the Russians have to pass through not just two rivers, but also a lot of buildings, and they have bad vision over this area, and Ukraine has artillery support to the north. Now, this allows the Ukrainians to have multiple defensive lines. We have one here at the Mokn-Yalv River, as well as here. So most likely we'll see the Russians trying to reach this river before either going around from the south, where they have to do a small river crossing here, or they have to go from completely the south all around these rivers and attack from the south here, as there's no crossing at the north. And that is why we see Zolotarnyva being taken. Most likely they're going to be attacking from the east. As for Vuhledar, we actually know that this village is a Soviet-style village where the apartment complexes are really tall, and the Ukrainians have turned this into a small fortress where they have reinforced their positions. They have created blockades on top of these buildings and make them into areas where the Ukrainians actually have a good overview and high ground to defend this village. We also have this area in the back where there are a lot of warehouses and containers. This is most likely where they store all of their ammunition, and it allows them to set up a long defensive warfare, which is why we see the Russians trying to push forward the end, as well as capturing Pavlivka, as they will try to make an operational encirclement, allowing them to prevent the Ukrainians from falling back, as they basically raise the village to the ground, making sure that the defenders can't just hold them there for a long time. After this, most likely because of the significance of this village and the defensive capabilities of it, most likely the soldiers here are some of the few elite soldiers that they have left, which means once they have taken this village through their encirclement, it will allow them to push much further than what we see right now, especially with how they are pushing on every front line, which means that the reinforcements are running low. Around Marinka, we see something similar to Novosilivka, except for the lack of lakes. However, this is a very dense area, as we see there are these square building houses, which means that the Ukrainians are actually able to move from house to house, and they're forcing the Russians to fight from building to building. This allows them to slow down the Russians significantly as they try to take this village. And then to the north we see how these buildings are all connected all the way to Maximilyanivka, which means that essentially the Russians either have to push through and cut off the Ukrainian defenders, or they'll have to fight from building to building to building to building to building all the way to here. So generally this area is an area where the Ukrainians now, considering how they have lost most of their areas in these fortified cities, they are forced to just try and slow down the Russians as much as possible. Which is why Russia actually needs to go fast this time, as that will allow them to make the most significant advances. At the area west for Donetsk, where the Russians are advancing from Pisky, we see how they are having the same situation where they have to fight from house to house in a very long distance, which is why we see them going to each side, trying to outflank the Ukrainians, especially at around Vuhledar. This is where we will see the most significant fighting, as we see how it connects between the western side to the northern side of Donetsk, and also allowing them to kind of connect these front lines and cut off Upytne and this military base right here, allowing them to eventually focus on surrounding Avdiivka. As for around the Izyum front, we see how these areas, again, we have a lot of rivers and forests around this area. However, with the fighting I've reported here, they're most likely either gone around or made some kind of crossing where the river is shortest. This allows them to push into this village, which is essentially not a village. It is a few buildings here and there, but mostly just huge patches of forest, which is why it is significant for them to take this area, as it will allow them to set up some kind of defensive line against flanking maneuvers from the Ukrainian side as they push towards Bervinkov. They'll have to use this main highway to reach Bervinkov, especially with how the fall is coming soon. And with them pushing through Veronopilia and Novodimitrivka, they just need Rydne, and then they'll have all the villages on the way to Bervinkov. And finally, south of Bakhmut, north of Donetsk, we have the fighting at Zalisne and Shumi, which is actually where we see them take on the most advanced area, as this whole area is essentially untouched since the start of the war, and it is as fortified as at the front of Donetsk, which means essentially they'll have to take half a year to pass through this, or they should definitely just go around, push north towards Bakhmut, force them to fall back to Konstantinivka, and then push from the south, and essentially three-way encirclement, operational encirclement of this area, allowing them to just bombard it all the time, as they at the same time push towards Pokrovsk and cut off the supplies, as well as Bervinkov cut off the supplies, which allows them to finally reach this area around Konstantinivka and siege it down, while just making use of how this area is out of supplies to take it. Force the enemy to surrender because they're out of supplies, rather than you just fight a battle of attrition. They'll take months. So essentially, we see the Russians actually pushing on every single front, and to the most of their possibilities. They literally cannot push more than what they're doing right now. Not because they don't have enough troops or whatever, but because there is no front line that isn't being pushed in the Donetsk region, which means that essentially we see the Russians at a maximum operational ability right now. Now that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Subscribe. And we have membership, so make sure to become a member if you want to participate in my live stream this Monday. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Good.